Hi, my name is Eleanor Seita, and among other things, I'm Technical Director at the International Modern Media Institute in Reykjavik, Iceland. At IMMI, we work for media freedom and freedom of expression around the world, and particularly in Iceland. Sadly, I'm here in this hotel room here in Hong Kong today instead of with you guys in California, so you get me on video. In 2008, Iceland underwent a severe economic collapse, the initial phase of the global financial crisis, and following that, what could be described as either a minor and peaceful revolution or a rapid but democratic change of governments as a result. In the wake of this, there was a general call for a new constitution. Iceland's previous constitution was adopted in all but whole cloth from Denmark, its former colonial master, during Icelandic independence in World War II. In the spirit of the shift happening in Iceland, the new government, a few years ago, decided on a uniquely open process for the new constitution. First, a lottery was held, with every Icelander who was eligible to vote in the pool. 1,000 people from ages 18 to somewhere around 92 were selected and gathered in one room, where they sat six to a table and collectively figured out what the agenda for the new constitution was, what its focuses should be. An election was then held for an assembly where 525 people, again from the general population, ran for 25 seats. This constituent assembly worked as an agile development team for the new constitution, doing week-long sprints with a release every week of the current document drafts. All of the proceedings of the assembly were public, full-minute meetings and everything. Critically, they also accepted public comments, both via Facebook, the dominant social network in Iceland, and an open website. One of the big concerns of the initial group had been separation of powers, as this had been a critical issue with the previous government and had enabled a lot of the financial malfeasance that had occurred. Now, I don't know what this sounds like to you, but to us at IMMI, it sounded like a bug filing system and an opportunity to build a threat model. I'm not going to claim here that law is just code, because it's not. It's got a lot of other layers of meaning and human messiness, but there are times when it can work that way and can be very inclined towards computational approaches. Constitutional law is especially interesting from a computational perspective because it's both tractable and socially universal. It doesn't import hundreds of years of case law if you're in a common law country, and it doesn't have to deal with the full complexity of managing a modern society. It also has to adhere to a higher standard of understandability and correctness. While we were somewhat resource constrained in terms of what we could pull off as outsiders to the process, we looked at many different techniques for improving the quality of the final draft and implemented a number of them. Among things that we found interesting were a variety of low-level measures of language complexity. Everything from Flesch-Kincaid reading complexity, which you had to port to Icelandic as the initial databases didn't exist, to Boolean tree complexity and ambiguity measures and unbound variable detection. The goal here is to ensure that the average citizen can read and correctly understand the Constitution, that it's logically unambiguous and correct, and that it's generally self-contained as a document and can be interpreted without reference to outside sources. We did a range of scenario analysis work on the Constitution, looking for situations where the proposed legal structures would obviously not suffice. We also worked on building at least a partial threat model of the Constitution to look more formally at issues around internal correctness and consistency. As a result of this, we ended up with a large pile of bugs that we filed with the Assembly. They worked through all of our comments along with all of everyone else's, every single comment they received, and in the end, they adopted many of our proposed fixes verbatim, including several new articles. Sadly, politics have so far intervened in the adoption of the new draft constitution, despite it being passed through a popular referendum, most recently with a set of frankly illegal measures adopted by the now dissolved Alþingi, or Icelandic Parliament, right before the current elections, which are happening this weekend. With luck, the new Alþingi, once it's seated, will be able to salvage the situation and get the constitution pushed through after all. As far as our work was concerned, we learned a few things. First of all, even in an open process, access, legitimacy, and capacity are all critical. Without being able to talk to the Assembly, the importance of the kinds of concerns that we were raising might have been less obvious. Thankfully, in Iceland, it's possible to just sit down and have a conversation with people. Likewise, as almost all of the analytic output that we provided as volunteers was apolitical and concerned only with document quality, working directly with or inside the Assembly might have been both more appropriate and more effective. Finally, the work that we did was time-consuming, especially as we were taking on some non-trivial translation load as well to get the document into English. More resources and more time would have let us do much, much more, all of which could have been accomplished if we'd been involved sooner as an official part of the process. The combination of an open and transparent process like the one in Iceland with an integrated analysis team performing both traditional legal analysis and more modern computation-centric analysis has the possibility to produce radically new and more functional constitutive documents. That's all I've got for you guys today, but if you'd like to talk more and continue the conversation, you can reach me at Ella, E-L-L-A, at IMMI.is, or on Twitter as Dimexi. Thanks.